Welcome to Factual America, the channel where we pull back the curtain and give you the real stories behind the headlines without the spin. Today, we're going to tackle something that impacts every American's wallet: gasoline prices. You've seen the headlines. Maybe you've seen your own gas bill jump dramatically. You might have even heard it's all because of one man, Vladimir Putin. But is that really the whole story? Stick with us, because what you're about to hear may just change the way you think about gas, America's energy future, and the stories you've been told by politicians and the media. Let's start with the biggest myth out there: the idea that high gas prices are entirely a result of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Think back just a little. Were gas prices already climbing before 2022? Absolutely. In fact, American gasoline prices were soaring in 2021, months before the first Russian tank crossed the Ukrainian border. So, what does drive gas prices in America? Here's the twist most politicians don't want to talk about. Gas prices are set not just by world events, but by a complex system involving supply and demand, regulations, refining capacity, and, yes, government policy here at home. Let's break it down. Oil is a global commodity. That means even if the oil is pumped out of Texas or North Dakota, its price is set by global markets. If global supply gets tight, even a little, prices go up everywhere, not just America. But there's more to it. In the United States, the price at the pump isn't just for the raw oil. It includes refining, transporting, taxes, and sometimes boutique fuel blends required by state regulations. Here's the first twist. The US is one of the world's biggest oil producers. In 2019, America became a net exporter of oil and petroleum products. You heard that right. We pump plenty of oil in Texas, North Dakota, Alaska, and more. So why aren't we immune to price spikes? Turns out, being a big producer doesn't mean we control the market. Our prices still follow global trends. But it gets even more complicated. What many people overlook is refining capacity. You can't put crude oil straight into your car. You need refineries. And America's refineries are a bottleneck. Over the past decade, no major new refineries have been built because of regulatory hurdles, high costs, and profit margins that can swing wildly. And when storms hit the Gulf Coast, or a refinery goes offline for maintenance, prices can spike even if there's plenty of crude oil in storage. Speaking of regulations, that's where our story really takes a turn. Environmental regulations, emission standards, and mandated summer blends of gasoline can send prices higher, especially in states like California, where environmental rules are the strictest in the country. For a big portion of the year, refineries must switch to more expensive formulas to cut smog, even if your local air is already clean. Let's talk about another big driver: government energy policies. Since the change in administrations in early 2021, American energy policy has shifted. The current administration paused new leases on federal lands, canceled pipelines, and promoted green energy. These moves, even if symbolic at first, sent a message to markets: the government might not have oil's back. Investors started to worry whether long-term oil projects were worth their billions, so they held back on new drilling. But don't think this is all about Democrats or President Biden. Have you ever wondered why gas prices shot up during Hurricane Katrina in 2005, or during the Arab Spring in 2011? Both happened under different administrations, and both times, the same thing happened. Anytime the world feels less stable, oil prices jump. It doesn't matter who's in charge. The market hates unpredictability. Here's a fact you probably didn't hear on the evening news. During the COVID-19 pandemic, global demand for oil collapsed. Drilling stopped. Dozens of oil companies went bankrupt. Once people started driving again, the demand for gasoline roared back. But the supply chain was still broken. Oil production doesn't come back with the flip of a switch. That imbalance, too much demand, not enough supply, drove prices up fast. But wait, there's more. Did you realize that the US dollar, inflation, and Wall Street speculation all play a role in your cost at the pump? Oil is traded in dollars. When the dollar gets weaker, oil gets more expensive for Americans. Add inflation on top, and you're paying even more. Meanwhile, Big investors can gamble on oil futures, pushing prices way beyond what supply and demand would suggest. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: Putin and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's true, Russia is a major oil producer, and the war did affect global oil supplies. But here's the catch: Europe, not America, is most dependent on Russian oil. In fact, the US imported only a small fraction of its oil from Russia. So how did sanctions on Russia hit the US so hard? Part of it was psychological. Markets panicked and speculated on shortages, driving prices up. But the groundwork for high prices was set long before Putin's tanks rolled. It's time to talk about corporate profits. When the market panics, oil companies often make record profits. In 2022, the 5 biggest oil companies posted their highest profits in years. Critics call it price gouging. Supporters call it capitalism. But the truth is, companies respond to incentives. If they see risk of future government crackdowns, they'd rather pay out dividends than invest in new capacity. Consider also America's role as a swing producer. For decades, OPEC, the cartel of mostly Middle Eastern oil producers, set the prices. Then came the US shale revolution. We started producing so much that OPEC lost some of its grip. But American shale oil isn't immune to economics. The cost to drill a new well is high, and regulations are strict. So if prices drop, drilling stops quickly. But it gets more ironic. Sometimes politicians call for tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to bring down gas prices. This reserve was created for national emergencies, not to smooth over political bumps. When we tap it, it only moves the needle a tiny fraction. And then, we have to refill it, often at higher prices. Let's not forget the unseen costs of the push for green energy. Many states and the federal government have policies penalizing fossil fuel use and rewarding wind and solar. But switching isn't cheap or easy. Batteries, solar panels, and wind turbines all require minerals, often imported from countries with spotty records on human rights and pollution. The push to go green sometimes makes oil projects riskier and costlier, which pushes prices up. Here's something almost no one discusses. Refining regulations in the US are so sticky that even if oil producers wanted to flood the market with cheap domestic oil, many refineries can't process it. American refineries were designed for heavier crude. Newer, lighter Texas oil doesn't always fit. Upgrading refineries is expensive, so companies stick to the old ways, leading to bottlenecks. There's yet more to the Made in America puzzle. Some states, due to geography and pipeline access, actually import gasoline instead of refining their own. California, for example, limits pipelines and refineries so much that when anything goes wrong, even a lightning strike at a refinery, local prices soar. Now, about taxes. The federal government charges about 18 cents per gallon, and states can add much more. In fact, drivers in California pay over 50 cents a gallon in state taxes alone. These taxes fund roads and bridges, but they also pad the final bill anytime you fill up. Let's recap the twists. Your gas prices are shaped by global events, but even more by America's own policies. Regulations, infrastructure bottlenecks, environmental rules, and Wall Street speculation. Yes, Putin is part of the story, but the root causes started long before 2022. American production boomed and busted. Regulations kept refineries and pipelines frozen in time. Politicians from both parties have grandstanded over oil for decades, but few have seriously fixed the system. So what can you do as an American? First, demand honesty from your leaders and the media. Look beyond easy scapegoats. Push for policies that expand U.S. refining, streamline regulations, and deliver energy security without sacrificing the environment or outsourcing our future. And remember, high prices aren't always a sign that someone's out to get you. Sometimes they're the result of choices made, over decades, by politicians, investors, and regulators. Thanks for watching Factual America. Now it's your turn. What do you think is the biggest reason for high gas prices? Is it government overreach, market greed, global instability? Tell us your story in the comments below. Did you change your commute, buy a different car, or just grit your teeth? And what topics do you want us to tackle next? More on energy? More on American industry? Let us know. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a dose of real talk. This is Factual America, your home for truth, not theater.